You need to watch this if you crave chills down your spine. Welcome to Soul Studios. Here, true crime meets the unknown. Suspense lurks in every shadow, and supernatural forces whisper from the dark. We craft chilling, edge-of-your-seat short stories inspired by the eerie, the unexplained, and the most haunting mysteries. 3 new stories drop every week, each one darker than the last. Are you ready to step inside? Subscribe now before the next story finds you.
In this chilling, true crime-inspired tale, a podcaster, Eli Dunham, reopens a 30-year-old cold case involving a family who vanished without a trace from their remote farmhouse in West Virginia. The only clue left behind? A single word carved into the floorboards, one that would unravel a terrifying legacy buried beneath the home. As the podcaster investigates, what he uncovers will blur the line between history and horror, and some secrets may not stay buried. Told in immersive first-person style with a bone-chilling atmosphere, this is one story you won't forget. If you crave dark mysteries, unsolved disappearances, and supernatural cold cases that feel disturbingly real, subscribe to Soul Studios now. Because some stories don't just scare you, they follow you. I can feel my pulse thrumming in my ears as I stand before the old farmhouse, my flashlight beam cutting a frail cone of light through the West Virginia darkness. Rain hammers the tin roof above, and in the distance, thunder growls. In each flicker of lightning, I glimpse the farmhouse's warped silhouette, a sagging porch and 2 front windows that gape like vacant eyes. The once white paint has mostly peeled off, leaving dark, rotting wood exposed. The air is thick with the damp smell of moss and decay. My name is Eli Dunham, and I'm a true crime podcaster. Over the past year, one cold case in particular has consumed me utterly. Back in 1993, the Willard family, James, Laura, and their 2 young children, vanished without a trace from this house in the remote community of Elmridge, West Virginia. A neighbor discovered the place eerily undisturbed. Dinner was still on the table, the TV softly hissing in the living room, and the family car remained in the driveway. There were no signs of struggle or foul play. The only clue was a single horrifying detail. The word Stillborn had been gouged into the living room floorboards near the fireplace. Detective Natalie Granger led the investigation. The farmhouse was remote, and nothing indicated foul play. No break-in, no struggle, everything in its place. Only the family was gone. And that bizarre word carved into the floor. Granger interviewed everyone and dug into the Willards' lives, but found no enemies, debts, or motives for them to vanish. No ransom came, and no bodies ever turned up. With 0 leads, the case went cold, leaving the community shaken and whispering that the land itself might be cursed. And indeed, the farmhouse sat on the former grounds of a 19th-century asylum's chapel. Many believed some evil from that old asylum still lingered. Not long before the disappearance, Laura Willard had even confided to a friend that she often woke up at night to the faint sound of a baby crying somewhere in the farmhouse, even though her children were older and there was no baby in the home. Over the years that followed, anyone who dared set foot in the abandoned house reported the same phantom cries, disembodied lullabies echoing in empty rooms, and sometimes far worse. A few trespassers spoke of shadowy figures and an unbearable, oppressive presence that drove them away in terror. Eventually, I learned that Detective Granger had left behind a taped confession about the case, meant to be heard after her death. She had taken her own life in 2015, still haunted by what happened. I got hold of that cassette, and one late night I played it back, Granger's weary voice crackling through the static.
This is Detective Natalie Granger. I need to set the record straight. I lied in my reports. There was evidence at that farmhouse I never revealed. On the 2nd day of the search, I pried up a loose floorboard where Stillborn was scratched. Underneath, I found a small wooden box. Inside it were the skeletal remains of an infant wrapped in rotted burlap. It looked decades, maybe a century old.
I feel a chill as I picture the scene. On the tape, Natalie's voice shakes with guilt.
I took the box and hid it. That night, I burned the bones and cloth to ash, and I sank the empty box in a pond on my property. After that, I thought it was over, but it wasn't. I started hearing it. A baby crying. At my house, in my dreams, I heard it every night. It wouldn't stop. Sometimes I'd find small wet footprints on my floor, like a toddler had walked in from the rain, leading from my front door to my bedroom. I wasn't imagining it. I know how it sounds, but I'm not crazy. That thing, that child, followed me. I destroyed evidence and angered something. God forgive me. If anyone ever hears this, please, don't go back to that house. Don't end up like me.
The recording falls silent. I sit back, my mind reeling. Detective Granger had discovered a secret far more horrifying than any human crime and paid the price. She believed the spirit of that infant had latched onto her. It was a dire warning, one I know I should probably heed. But instead, her confession only strengthens my resolve. The word stillborn suddenly makes sense. It wasn't referring to any of the Willard children. It was pointing to that long-dead infant. I need to know who that baby was and what happened on this land to spawn such a nightmare. Digging through old county records and archives, I finally find my answer. In a dusty journal from 1888, I uncover the story of Annabel Hodge, a young patient at the old Elmridge Asylum. Annabel arrived at the asylum heavily pregnant and troubled. She gave birth in the asylum's infirmary during a winter storm, but tragically, the baby boy was stillborn. Grief drove Annabel into madness. In the asylum's chapel, she clutched her dead infant and carved the word stillborn into the wooden floor by the altar. Witnesses said she begged the chaplain to hear her baby's cries. The sympathetic chaplain, Father Harrington, secretly buried the infant under the chapel floorboards, hoping to give the child a resting place on holy ground. Annabel's mind never recovered. She took her own life soon after, consumed by sorrow. In the years that followed, staff and patients whispered about hearing a lullaby and a baby's wail echoing in that chapel at night. The asylum closed down in 1907, and decades later the Willards farmhouse was built right on that very spot. Armed with this knowledge, I'm convinced the events of 1993 were tied to Annabel's lost child. The ghostly crying, the word on the floor, the infant's remains, it all traces back to 1888. I also understand why Detective Granger was so shaken. But now I have something she didn't, the full story. Perhaps I think if I can retrieve whatever is left under those floorboards and acknowledge that restless spirit, maybe I can put it to rest. At the very least, I will document the truth, no matter how strange and dark. And so here I am, on this stormy night in 2023, standing at the doorstep of the abandoned farmhouse with my camera in hand. Rain pours down around me, and thunder rumbles overhead. I'm live streaming this investigation for my followers, and as a safeguard, so there's a record if something happens. Two close friends know my plan. If I'm not out by morning, they'll call the police. It might sound extreme, but after everything I've learned, I'm not taking any chances. I grip my flashlight a little tighter. In my backpack, I've packed an EMF meter and a small crowbar to pry up those floorboards if needed. I'm about as ready as I'll ever be. I take a deep breath and push open the heavy front door. Door creaks open slowly. Stepping into the darkness inside. My flashlight beam illuminates the living room. The air is stale and carries a faint sour odor. Right away I spot the word stillborn carved into the floorboards near the cold fireplace. Seeing it in person sends a chill through me. Carefully I move further in. Every step on the warped wood, floorboards creak, echoes in the silence. I sweep my light across the room. Dusty furniture, peeling wallpaper, but no sign of anyone or anything here. I decide to check upstairs first, to make sure I'm truly alone. Ascending the narrow staircase, I find the children's bedroom. In the corner, sitting in an empty crib, is an old baby doll. Its porcelain face is cracked and one glass eye is missing. The sight of it raises goosebumps on my arms. I turn to scan the rest of the room, but I suddenly hear a soft scuffing sound behind me. When I look back, my heart skips. The doll is no longer in the crib. It's now lying on the floor by the doorway, as if someone quietly moved it when I wasn't looking. I swallow hard. "Hello?" I whisper into the dark. No answer. I back out of the room, unnerved, and head downstairs again. As I reach the bottom, I nearly stumble. That doll is now on the staircase, as if placed there to watch me. Its single eye gleaming in the glow of my flashlight. I know I didn't touch it. Something is here. Enough. It's time to see what's under that floorboard. Back in the living room, I kneel by the spot where Stillborn is etched. Using my crowbar, I wedge it under the edge of the loose plank. With a few hard pushes, the board pries loose and pops up, revealing a dark, shallow cavity beneath. I angle my flashlight down into the opening to peer inside. I see. Nothing at first, just emptiness and some debris. My heart sinks slightly. Of course, Natalie removed the box and everything in it. I reach my hand into the cavity, running it along the inside. Bits of brittle, burnt burlap come away in my fingers, remnants of what she burned, perhaps. There's also something solid toward the back corner. My fingertips brush it and I grasp it gently, lifting it out. It's a small metal object, caked in dust and soot. I rub it with my thumb, revealing a corroded silver surface. It's a locket, oval-shaped. The hinge is rusted shut, and the front is engraved with something. I bring it closer to the light. There, I can just make it out. A tiny cross and the initials AH, Annabelle Hodge. A wave of awe and sadness washes over me. I handle the locket as reverently as a holy relic. This likely belonged to Annabelle or her baby, a personal token buried with the infant over a century ago. As I cradle the locket in my palm, the atmosphere in the room changes. The air that was merely stale now feels electrically charged, and a chill sweeps over me. My ears perk up to a new sound inside the house, a faint melody like a lullaby humming from somewhere nearby. It's the tune of Hush, Little Baby, so soft I can barely tell if it's real. A chill runs up my spine. The lullaby grows louder, and then it twists into a different sound that freezes my blood, the shrill cry of an infant, rising from below the floorboards. The crying intensifies, echoing through the rooms, and now a chorus of hushed voices joins it. I can't make out any words, but dozens of whispers seem to swirl around me from all sides, urgent and mournful. My pulse is racing. Suddenly, the front door slams shut on its own. The boom reverberating through the house. I flinch in shock. In 2 strides, I'm at the door, fumbling with the knob. It won't turn. It's like it's being held closed by an unseen hand. I ram my shoulder against the door, but it doesn't budge. A brilliant flash of lightning illuminates the house for a split second. And in that glare, I glimpse a figure standing in the archway to the hall. A tall woman in a dark, antiquated dress. I blink, and she's gone. Panting, I spin back toward the room, adrenaline surging. I spot my camcorder on the floor where I left it recording. Its tiny flip screen glows in the darkness. As the video feed crackles with interference, I see on the screen the reflection of something behind me. It's a small, pallid face, the face of a baby, peering over my shoulder with hollow, black eyes. Jesus! I gasp, wheeling around in terror, but there's no one there. In that same instant, invisible hands clamp around my throat, small, ice-cold and impossibly strong. I gag and stumble forward, claws of pain squeezing my windpipe. The grip tightens. I'm being lifted onto my toes by nothing at all. My vision dances with spots. I manage to wrench free for a split second and crash to the floor, but those cold little hands are on me again immediately, crushing my windpipe. I can't see anything except dust and shadows. My flashlight has clattered away somewhere, and the only light is the feeble glow of my fallen camcorder. I kick and thrash, feeling myself grow weaker as the air is throttled from my lungs. My camera lies on its side near the doorway, lens pointed toward me. Through watering eyes, I see its red rec light blinking, still recording. I'm dragged backward along the floorboards, away from the door, my heels scraping grooves in the wood. The corners of my vision are going black. I can barely form a thought, but one thing sears itself in my mind with crystal clarity. Perhaps this camera will be the only witness to whatever is about to happen to me. My consciousness slips as I'm pulled into the dark of the hallway. The last thing I hear is the rain pounding outside and the ragged, desperate sound of my own choking breaths. Then... to this day, no one knows what really happened to Eli Dunham inside that house. His camera was found 3 days later at the edge of a ravine, footage corrupted, except for the last frame, a baby's face smiling from the shadows. Some say Eli Dunham vanished chasing a ghost story, but the story was never his to tell. Some spirits don't want peace, they want witnesses.
Every story has an end, but here, the mysteries never stop. Thank you for watching and being a part of this journey into the unknown. Your support keeps these stories alive, and there's plenty more waiting for you. We drop 3 new stories every week, so if you crave suspense, the unexplained, and the downright chilling, make sure you're subscribed and ready for what's next. Until then, keep your lights on, your doors locked, and remember, some stories stay with you long after they're told.